What's up, guys, and welcome back to Real Talk Sports with Rico. Today, I will be your host. Today's show, we are talking about the NFL and we are talking about Week 11. I'm actually going to be recapping some of the earlier games and actually previewing and giving you some predictions here for the later games coming up here tonight. And then also, too, for the game that is taking place Monday, which is the rematch of the Super Bowl between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. Before we actually jump into the content, let me first and foremost thank Anchor for being our podcast host, which is now Spotify Podcast. Let me go ahead and thank the fans out there who have chimed in on a week-to-week basis to help us drive stories and content to the show. And then also, too, let me thank the sponsors out there for putting sponsorship on the show. And once again, guys, you actually can follow us at Spotify Podcasts, and you also can follow us on YouTube here at Real Talk Sports with Rico. Make sure that you press like and subscribe, guys, and follow us on the show. So let's go ahead and get ready to jump into the content, guys. A whole bunch of great stuff that took place here in Week 11. I think at one point in the fourth quarter, 8 games were down to just about 7 points apiece. What a terrific NFL Sunday. And let us start off with some rivals. And I've got some video up for you guys as well as we take a look at that. And let's start off with the NFC East and the New York Giants and the Washington Commanders here. And I thought that when you looked at this football game, I thought that this was going to be a little bit more of a closer contest than what it was. I think honestly, it kind of was till the end, but I was really impressed with the way the Giants were able to handle themselves, especially the rookie quarterback able to come in here, Tommy DeVito, 18 of 26, 246, 3 touchdowns, but more importantly, no INTs. And get this, guys, he was sacked 9 times in this football game and still had a quarterback rating of 137.7. I mean, that stuff right there it reminds me of a young Joe Burrow. Remember when Joe Burrow went to the Super Bowl against the Rams? He was one of the most sacked quarterbacks in NFL history. And all Joe continued to do was get up and slice people up. And that's what I saw here today in New York. And you know that I've been critical about the signing of Daniel Jones, but this guy has shown some real promise here. I still don't know who he's throwing to other than Saquon Barkley. They did have a Darius Slayton appearance. He had 4 receptions, 82 yards, and a 40-yard touchdown today. So he looked really good. And Saquon Barkley, 4 receptions, 57 yards. So the story of this one for the Giants is the playmakers made plays that they had to make on the offensive end. And defensively, you knew Eric Bieniemy has really drawn up a good scheme. He has made Sam Howell very comfortable in his first year of starting as a quarterback. Once again, Sam Howell almost eclipsed the 300-yard mark at 255. But they were able to bait Sam Howell into some interceptions, which were very costly for Washington. He had 3 INTs on the day. He did get sacked 4 times as well. He is the most sacked quarterback in the NFL. They were able to get the running attack going with Brian Robinson with the 17 for 73. You know, I talked about that before. And also Sam Howell was able to get loose in the secondary. But Logan Thompson, who I went with in the fantasy football today, 5 receptions, 58 yards, pretty much was the leader here in receiving yards. Brian Robinson had 2 more receptions, the same amount of yards. But I think the Giants did a terrific job in taking away Terry McLaurin. And the fact that they got torched for 400 yards last week against Dallas, I thought that they were going to be very vulnerable this week against Washington. And I have got to give the Giants a ton of credit here. And Coach Cristobal was able to rally the troops and take away a lot of what Washington mainly I thought was going to be able to do at home, which was pass the football. So kudos to the Giants. They get a big win in the sense that it's not going to get them into the playoff picture, but they are 3-8. But I think it's a win that they needed for the simple pride factor here as they get it done 31-19 in that one. Next up, guys, let's talk about the Arizona Cardinals and the Houston Texans. And of course, the biggest story about the Texans has been CJ Stroud, about how great he has played. Was looking at this football game at one point in the first half. CJ Stroud had thrown for 250 yards. I have been on the podcast talking with Devontae, the real Hogan, and we were talking about NFL quarterbacks coming in as rookie quarterbacks. And I had made the statement that most times people want rookie quarterbacks to come in and just be like Madden quarterbacks, where they just immediately turn the franchise around and then they start lighting up NFL defenses. I said that that generally doesn't happen in real life. CJ Stroud is the closest thing to just disbarring my statement. Other than what I've seen with RG3, Brock Purdy, maybe I could say that with Ben Roethlisberger. You perhaps could say that with Tom Brady. But these are just times where a rookie quarterback has come in, not looked like a rookie, and has literally lit up defenses. Out of those five quarterbacks that I listed, these are quarterbacks that weren't throwing little 5-yard rinky-dink passes down the field. Like, he is literally opening it up and he is throwing 20, 30-yard dimes down the field. So look, CJ Stroud has been amazing. I know this is probably one of his tougher games today. He did throw 3 INTs, but he still threw for 336, threw 2 touchdowns. And he also, too, was able to put the trust into the defense to win the game. They are getting some outstanding contributions from Devin Singletary, who for the first time in his career had back-to-back 100-yard games. And I think that's incredible considering that Buffalo spent the capital to go out here and draft him. But I'm loving the fact that he has come over. He has been special for this running attack. And remember, they had Dameon Pierce last year, and he is nowhere to be found. And Devin Singletary is really the guy at this point. So he has solidified the running game. I think that he actually, maybe he wears the same number as Arian Foster. So this is about the best running game that Houston has had since Arian Foster has been there. Then you look at what Tank Dell has been doing. I talked about Tank Dell a little bit, and yes, there's been some inconsistency with Tank Dell, but man, I knew that somebody had to step up today. But man, Tank Dell, 8 receptions, 149 yards, and a touchdown. Like, these guys have been one of the best tandems in the NFL. And I'm not just talking about rookie to rookie tandems. I'm talking about wide receiver to quarterback tandems. Like, they're right up there with Tyreek Hill, with Tua. Like, these guys are lighting up the scoreboard, and Tank Dell has been incredible. He was on the radar in the preseason. He had some good games early, but man, through the first half, he has really turned it on. Nico Collins, who I thought was going to have a good one as well. I went with Tank Dell and Nico Collins from a fantasy football standpoint. Both did not disappoint. 7 receptions, 65 yards for him. He did a terrific job in working the middle of the field. And John Michie, the third, I think once they get him integrated from Alabama, like, I think that these guys are going to be incredible for a long time coming. And then I'm going to go ahead and give Arizona their flowers, even though they lost the football game. I have got to give a lot of credit to Kyler Murray. This team is so much more better and competitive with him at the starting quarterback helm. I'm just not sure long term, as far as staying healthy, if that's going to be the best bet for this team. But 20 of 30 today. 1 touchdown, 1 INT. He made a lot of plays out there that were not there for them. James Conner, 14 for 62 yards. Yep, correct. And then Greg Dortch was the leading wide receiver here for them. 6 receptions, 76 yards. So, I just think with Arizona, they still have a lot of pieces that need to be in place. They're a disappointing 2-9 club. I think that if they are going to build with Kyler Murray, they've still got to address the elephant in the room and build around him. I don't think that they've necessarily done that from an offensive standpoint. And then you've got to see some consistency, especially since he signed that big contract. But the future bodes well for Houston. You were wondering, would they be able to win a game without CJ Stroud playing extremely well? And the answer is yes. They are 6-4. Houston is a dangerous dangerous team that you do not want to see moving forward. I promise you that. So let's look at the next game here that came up for today. And that is going to be the Carolina Panthers and the Dallas Cowboys. In this one, CeeDee Lamb had a chance to make history. If he were able to get a touchdown grab, I think in this one, he would actually match, I think it was going to be Megatron for the most times in a career. Like he was going second for the most times in a career with a touchdown pass. So he was going for 4 consecutive, which I think he got to second in the history books there. And I think he needed 150 yards, and he needed to get that 4 consecutive times. And either he matched or he was going to be behind Megatron in that one. So look, I have got to give CeeDee Lamb his credit where credit is due, because I was like, I don't know if CeeDee Lamb is going to be a number one. And I said that he's got to score touchdowns. Since I've made that comment, he has literally gone out and he has scored a touchdown in every single game that he has been a part of. So kudos to him. And he actually got into the end zone yet again today against the Carolina Panthers. And I think more importantly, what you saw with Dallas is that they took care of business. Like, the one thing about Dallas is Dallas would win games that they I guess were supposed to win. Well, not supposed to win. And then there were games where they were supposed to win and they don't win them. So they were like the exact opposite. And so, today Dak Prescott looked good for the second week in a row. They have gone against 2 anemic teams. I think that you can honestly say with Carolina and New York, those are probably the Giants, are probably the 2 worst teams in the NFL at this point in time. Bryce Young, 16 of 29, has really struggled as the number 1 pick. And I mean, not struggled in the sense that you don't think he's not going to be a good starting quarterback, but I think every week that CJ Stroud plays well and then Will Levis is starting to turn it on for Tennessee, like he had a really good touchdown pass today. I think the more that those guys start to play, it's like the more pressure that gets put on Bryce Young, because he essentially was anointed as the number 1 starting quarterback from day one. CJ Stroud actually had to earn that from Coach Ryans, even though I think that, clearly a lot of people thought that he was going to win the job, but there was a real question that Davis Mills might actually be the starter here. So, Bryce Young is feeling a lot of pressure. And I think mainly the problem is he really hasn't got good contribution from Miles Sanders, a guy that they brought over from Philadelphia who just was in the Super Bowl, a guy who they thought was going to be a little bit more of a factor. He's split a lot of carries with Chuba Herbert, who has actually been the better running back, in my opinion. And then as far as the number 1 wide receiver, they've really leaned a lot on Adam Thielen, and, they just really haven't found too much else besides that. And looking at this game, the offense was really, I think, in a lot of ways just stagnated. Like I was saying, CJ Stroud goes down the field a bit more, and Bryce Young is not there yet. A lot of the routes and things that they're running are short intermediate routes, and you're starting to see a lot of what the Colts ran last year with Frank Wright as the head coach. And I think that mainly comes down to quarterback play. They just don't have that just yet. So until they figure that out, they're going to really struggle. So they lost today. CeeDee Lamb got into the end zone. He only had 38 yards. Brandon Cooks come on lately, 3 receptions, 42 yards. And Dak was good. But more importantly, I like what's going on here from a running back standpoint. Tony Pollard, 12 rushes, 61 yards. But I think Rico DeWiddle has done well as well for the Cowboys. And I think he's adding a little bit more of a dimension here, because Dallas, I think when they put it solely on Tony Pollard, it really wasn't working. But then once they started to add Rico DeWiddle into this one, it has actually opened the offense up a little bit more, and they become a little bit more dynamic. And I think that this is a little bit more of a difference for Dallas, because traditionally they have gone with a single back set. Mainly you look at what they were able to do with Ezekiel Elliott for all those years, but as he wore down, they had to go to a little bit more of a 2-back system. Dallas traditionally has been a 1 running back system. Now they're they're into what we call the modern era football, where you're seeing a little bit more of a two-back system. I think that that's kind of opened up the playbook a little bit for Dak Prescott and the Cowboys. So winning today 33-10, they did what they were supposed to do. And CeeDee Lamb continues his hot start. So I'm going to give CeeDee Lamb his credit for sure, even though I'm a Commanders fan. So next up, going into this next game, the Bengals and Ravens. This is a game that took place on Thursday, but I thought it was newsworthy, or we should talk about it. And mainly because even though the Ravens won, I think that there really were two losers in this. You look at what happened to the Bengals is they have lost Joe Burrow for the season with a torn ligament in his wrist. Then you look at the Ravens, they have lost their tight end, Mark Andrews, and it looks like a horrific leg injury. That looked terrible. So he's out. He was like their number one option here. And I think Odell Beckham was having a good game, and then he got hurt. Zay Flowers hasn't really turned into, I think, the wide receiver that Baltimore has wanted just yet. I'm not saying that he can't. I mean, he has made some plays and things like that. But, I think that this is a tough situation for both rosters. And I think that even though that Baltimore has won this football game, I think long-term they're in trouble. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to continue to lean on Gus Edwards the way that they have, even though he had a monster game with the 2 touchdowns. He's been terrific. Lamar Jackson was a bit more of a rusher, 9 carries for 54 yards. He did have 2 TDs in the air, 16 of 26. But again, he's no longer going to have Mark Andrews. Zay Flowers only 3 receptions for 43 yards. And like I said, Odell Beckham was having a great game, 4 receptions for 116 yards, but then he got hurt. And plus he's older. So, with the Bengals, they were ascending. Now they're going to go to an unproven quarterback here. And Jake Boeing, I think that they've got to really go out there and find him a veteran quarterback. And I'm not sure if he is going to be able to find Jamar Chase, if he's going to be able to find Tyler Boyd. And I think that this really falls on the shoulder of Joe Mixon. And Joe Mixon hasn't had a great year thus far either. So I just wanted to, really say that I think that honestly speaking, I think that both teams lost. And I think that this is going to be devastating for both teams moving forward. Next up here, we have tonight's game against the Vikings and the Denver Broncos. And so giving you a little bit of a preview here going into this one, I think that when you look at the Vikings and you look at the Broncos, like clearly I think you're looking at 2 teams that are on a hot streak. And I got to give the Vikings a lot of credit for not packing it in, okay, because they really could have packed it in. Okay. They really could have, based off what is going on with them. I mean, they had lost Kirk Cousins. They had gone out there. They had lost Justin Jefferson for the first time in his career with the hamstring injury. And I think he's on the mend, or it looks like he's coming back. I'm going to have to check that. But Jordan Addison has played very well. But more importantly, I think for the Vikings is they have gotten terrific quarterback play from Joshua Dobbs. I've been very impressed with that. I think that because of this, they've been able to really go out here and play at an elite level. Now, do I think that they can win this football game? I do like the Vikings in this one. I do, because I think that the Vikings defensively are a little bit better than Denver. Now, I think that defensively, what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to stop Javonte Williams. That's going to be, I think, the key for Minnesota. If they're going to win this football game, they have got to stop Javonte Williams. I think that he is like the head of the snake for them, even though Russell Westbrook is having considerably a good year. I mean, he's 18 touchdowns against 4 INTs, so he's turned the ball over much lesser than he's done before. But I think that, honestly, if they can stop the run game here, then I definitely like Minnesota's chances here. On the flip side of this thing, Denver has got to run the football first and foremost in order to set up a lot of the play actions and a lot of the stuff that Sean Payton wants to do down the field. I think that when you're looking at what they've been able to do and what they've been able to accomplish over the last couple of weeks, it has come down to Javonte Williams being dynamic, not just as a football carrier, but he's also catching the football as well. He's got 436 yards on 111 attempts, clearly showing signs that he's actually gaining some momentum coming out of that knee surgery that he had, and then also to a slow start. But look, these guys have taken care of business. They beat Buffalo in a tough one. They beat Kansas City convincingly 24-9. You're looking at the win before that they had against Green Bay. And just looking at Javonte Williams, he had 21 for 79, 27 for 85, 15 for 82. Like, the guy has been getting it done. And receiving wise, he's had a touchdown in two of those three games that they've actually won. Excuse me. So, he had a touchdown against the Buffalo Bills, 4 receptions, 31 yards. He had 3 catches and a touchdown against the Chiefs. He's consistently been getting 3 catches here across the board. So he's been terrific as a receiver, and I think he's the best bet for them because I don't think that they've been getting a lot of consistency with Jerry Jeudy. They really haven't been able to go down the field to like Hamlin and these guys like that in the past. So, yeah, I mean, it really comes down to Javonte Williams, and I think that Minnesota is going to be able to take advantage of their matchup offensively. I think that Joshua Dobbs is going to be able to get out of the pocket. I do expect this to be a fairly competitive game. I think that this is going to be something along a 27-21 kind of contest. I think that this is going to be back and forth. I think you're going to see some explosive plays as well. And again, I like the Vikings long-term in this one. Like, I think that the Vikings take care of business, they stay hot, and they keep their playoff hopes alive. Next up, the game that took place here today, the Las Vegas Raiders against the Miami Dolphins. Speaking of teams that have been hot thus far, and it's been the Vegas Raiders. They have won 2 since getting Antonio Pierce, a guy that played for Washington, a guy that played for the Giants as well. Getting him as a head coach, he's been phenomenal. And he's helped them win the last 2 games here, and so they were coming into this one pretty hot. I thought that this was going to be a big test for Miami, especially going against a hot team like this. And the Dolphins were able to pull it out. Now, it wasn't pretty. They only won 20-13 in this one. Still, you had turnovers with Tua. Had some really inconsistency. He did throw for 325. The Raiders didn't have an answer for Tyreek Hill, who had a big day, 10 receptions, 146 yards, and a touchdown, although he did look like he hurt his hand. But I'm not really necessarily sold on the Dolphins. Again, I think Tua's health. And then on top of that, they actually lost another running back again because it looks like Devon Aiken, a guy that has played very well for them, actually left the game with the knee injury. Remember, guys, he came out of the game 3 or 4 weeks ago with a knee injury, had missed multiple weeks plus the bye week to come back and get hurt on the first carry and get 1 yard. That's tough. So I think that the running back depth takes a little bit of a hit. I think that he's been dynamic for Miami, and I think that this is going to hurt them. Jalen Waddle, 4 receptions for 55 yards in this one. And then on the other side of this thing, Devontae Adams, 7 receptions for 82 yards and a touchdown. He's looked pretty good. But with the Raiders, it comes down to Josh Jacobs. They were not able to get him going today. He only had 39 yards on 14 attempts. The young rookie, Adrian O'Connell, 3 interceptions. He did have a touchdown as well. You expect that with the rookie. And I do like his poise and his confidence, but as a rookie, you can't turn the football over. And it doesn't bode well for the Dolphins, considering the fact that this guy turned the football over. It was at home, and they still almost won the football game. I don't like the Dolphins long-term in the AFC. I don't like them long-term to win too many playoff games or to get to the Super Bowl. I don't think that they're better than Kansas City, and I certainly don't think that they would have been better than the Bengals or Bills. Next up, we're talking about, I think, the last game here that we want to talk about, and that is the Chiefs and the Eagles, and talking about the predictions in this one. this is going to be an intriguing matchup. And for this one, actually, I'm going to throw up a little bit more of actual live gameplay here as to what we might see. But, I just think that, first and foremost, there's so many things going on here. And I think that it's more so a circus, to be honest with you, and a good circus. But the NFC leading Eagles, they're 8-1. You have the AFC leading Chiefs at 7-2. They're traveling to Arrowhead, which is going to be interesting. And the one thing that you're going to first point at is Jalen Hurts, and then you have Patrick Mahomes. Both are MVP type of quarterbacks, and they're both have top 10 offenses with them. And you look at Andy Reid coming into this one with a win, he would actually pass the great Hank Strom, who was the winningest Chiefs coach in history for this one, and with two different franchise. And then you look at this one too, you got the two brothers, you have Jason Kelsey, you have Travis Kelsey, which are going to be going up against each other once more. Obviously, they played in the Super Bowl last year. Two different positions. Travis Kelsey is in the news for dating Taylor Swift, excuse me. So she's going to be at the game. Much is made of that. Two brothers going at this one. Like, this is going to be incredible. And the one thing that I will throw out here is that one of the most intriguing stats is coming off a bye. Coach Andy Reid is the most successful head coach coming out of byes, including the playoffs. Get this. Reid is so proficient at winning after the week off. He is 31-6 after byes, including postseasons. No coach or no franchise has been able to figure that out quite like Andy Reid. I don't know what the secret sauce is, what they're putting in the Gatorade bottles, but for whatever reason, you can expect the Kansas City Chiefs will be primed and ready for this one. As far as the injury updates are concerned, not too much here, but the one thing that I will circle here is that you have Dallas Goedert, who is out after breaking his forearm here and hurting his foot. So that is going to be hurt here, or that's going to hurt the Eagles a little bit. But the Eagles have been so dynamic offensively. I think that they're going to be able to figure it out. But Dallas Goedert certainly is a great safety valve for Jalen Hurts, especially if he's wanting to dump it down. Because notice he has not been running the football as much here as of lately. And then lastly, I think one of the things to look at here going into this is that the Chiefs are 4-1 in games decided by fewer than 10 points, which kind of falls in line with Andy Reid and his ability to win close games. Look at a lot of the things that he did with Philadelphia coming over here. And then the Eagles, they're 5-1 in games decided by a touchdown or less. Both teams are coming off close wins before their bye. The Kansas City Chiefs taking care of the Miami Dolphins there overseas. They're 21-14 in Germany, and then Philadelphia beating Dallas 28-23. Dallas having a chance there at the last second, but could not get it in here. So, the Chiefs defensive tackle Chris Jones, who obviously ended his week 1 holdout here, hasn't really been held without a sack since then. I think that that's going to be a tough one for Philadelphia moving forward, is can their offensive line hold this guy out? I think that, at the end of the day, that he's going to put a lot of pressure on the Philadelphia Eagles. I think that that's really where it's going to come down to, is who can win the upfront battle, right? The one thing I can say about Kansas City is, even though they've been winning these games, they haven't been looking good offensively. Now, it does bode well, because I think that this is going to be a little bit of a mud game for both teams. Like, I don't think you expect for both teams to just score 60 points. Like, I don't think that is going to happen. I think that this is going to be a grinded out game. I think it's going to be a situation which who can play keep away the best. And honestly speaking, right now, I really like Philadelphia in this one. I think that Philadelphia has improved their defensive line. I think that they're going to be able to take advantage of Kansas City's offensive line. And I'm not sure if they're going to be able to get Isaiah Pacheco involved in this football game or Jerick McKinnon. I think that the Eagles are going to be able to limit that. And because they're going to be able to limit that, there's only one other option that Patrick Mahomes can go to down the field, and that's going to be Travis Kelce. And I just don't know if Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes are going to make enough plays in this one to really keep the Eagles at bay. And I think that as good as Kansas City's defense is, I think that Jalen Hurts has figured out that we don't have to necessarily play fast break football, which they've done the year before. And I think that he's probably learned that, ultimately speaking, to beat this team, your best defense is probably to keep Patrick Mahomes on the sideline. I think that Jalen Hurts is able to do that. I do expect for the Eagles to win this one. I think that the Eagles win. Probably, I think that this is going to be close to a 20, maybe a 23-20 contest or a 23-17 contest, I feel like, in favor of the Eagles. And I think that the only way that this reverts and the Chiefs win this game, they're able to get Isaiah Pacheco going, and he's able to punish that defensive front, tire them out. Two, I think that they're going to have to get some huge contributions from Sidney Rice on the outside. They're going to have to get some contributions from Travis Kelce, and they're going to need Jerick McKinnon and Isaiah Pacheco to also catch some balls over the middle and make the linebackers play. And so if they are able to do that, then I can certainly see the Chiefs winning this one. But initially, I like the Eagles in this particular football game. And so with that being said, guys, that is today's show. Today we talked obviously about some of the games that have been going on, or games that actually went final here. And, some of the games that are actually currently playing right now. You have Seattle versus the Rams. You have Tampa Bay versus San Francisco. I believe it is scoreless right now between the Rams and Seattle. And I believe it is now a 7-3 contest. Last time I looked over here with the Bucks. And then you also have a slim 3-0 lead with the Bills versus the Jets right now. So with that being said, guys, I want to go ahead and thank Spotify Podcast for hosting the podcast. I want to go ahead and thank the sponsors out there who have put sponsorship on the show. I want to go ahead and thank the fans out there who have chimed in on a week-to-week basis here to help us actually drop some storylines to the show, guys. And I just want to go ahead and once again, thank the sponsors out there for putting sponsorship on this thing. And so for myself, this is Real Talk Sports with Rico. Make sure you pop over to YouTube and follow us there at Real Talk Sports with Rico, where you can like and subscribe and follow us there. We also will have some shorts up too that you guys can take a look at. And so for myself, this is Real Talk Sports with Rico. I'm saying peace. Love you guys and take care. Enjoy the games coming up here today. All right, guys. Peace.